Hello there, everyone, and a very good evening to you all, and a very warm welcome, and first and foremost, to everyone watching here today. My name is Farhan Ahmed. I'm from the University of Lincoln, and in particular, the Department of Marketing, Languages and Tourism. And it's an absolute pleasure this evening to host this live webinar with you, where I'm joined by a number of my colleagues from the department to discuss our postgraduate portfolio. First and foremost, can I say thank you for taking the time to join us this evening, or if you're watching on catch up, it's an absolute pleasure to be hearing from you in that regard as well. And I hope in the next half an hour or so, we within the department will be able to provide you an interesting and useful insight into our postgraduate portfolio in particular. But in particular, what we're trying to do is just to take you that one step further in terms of just not giving you the core details of our programs, but giving you an insight into the individuals that will be teaching you, giving you an insight in terms of what your program does, not only in terms of the modules that you undertake, but the extracurricular as well. And of course, all being well, we'll also cover the student support mechanisms that we have in place as well. Now, with every opportunity that you get in terms of taking part in these webinars, please feel free to ask questions as we go along this evening, and we will make every effort to address those. If I'm not able to help myself, I'm sure one of my colleagues will be able to chip in, and we'll make sure we get you the advice and guidance that you need. Before I begin to introduce my colleagues in turn, there's a couple of things I just wanted to say. Within the Department of Marketing, Languages and Tourism, which is embedded within the Lincoln International Business School here at the University of Lincoln, we are extremely proud to offer a diverse range of postgraduate programs. Now, we offer in total 8 postgraduate programs in total. And what you will be able to see on your screen right now is the specialist nature in some cases of our programs offered, but actually the conversion as well that some of our programs offer. So if you are coming from a particular background and wish to continue those studies further into postgraduate study, we do have those opportunities for you. However, if you're a conversion student coming from a general undergraduate degree or experience, then we also are able to cater for you as well. I would like to direct you in particular at this point to the names of our program leaders that you see on screen at the moment, and in particular their email contact addresses. So should you be interested in a particular degree program, please do not hesitate to make contact with my program leaders. They are all extremely insightful in terms of the information they can give you, and will be more than happy to liaise with you as well in terms of any queries that you may have. Finally, I just want to draw your attention, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, to our forthcoming postgraduate open evening, which is a fantastic opportunity for you to come and see our beautiful Brayford Pool campus, and more significantly, to talk to our program leaders as well. And that is on Wednesday, the 14th of June, between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. So we look forward to you joining us at that opportunity. So that's probably the most I want to say in terms of an introduction to this evening. What I would like to do at this point is to bring in my esteemed colleagues who you can see on the screen. And what I would ideally like is for each of them to tell you about their degree programs that they are program leaders for, but actually to give you a bit of an insight into themselves as well. So at this point, it's a very good evening to Amanda Goss, who is on my screen on the top right, as you can probably see her. It's a very good evening to you. And I want you to tell us a little bit about MSc Fashion Management, Amanda, because that's your passion and interest.
Yes, it is, Farhan. I'll just give you a brief overview. So the Master's Fashion Management programme covers 3 academic disciplines. So that's management, marketing, and of course, fashion. The course aims to produce graduates who are able to analyse consumer and society trends to develop effective purchasing, retail and promotional strategies. It's essential students on the programme learn how we connect and interact and communicate with the world around us, which is constantly changing. Particularly to enhance the student learner experience, students collaborate with other students throughout the university as producer to develop their skills, aligning to the areas of the fashion industry. I suppose a key form of self-expression, fashion is an important part of human culture and identity. So through the programme, students critically examine how developments and events on the global economy influence the fashion industry and how this affects management decisions, understand how this fast fashion model operates, looking towards a sustainable future. On the programme, obviously, we want to align students with key core business skills, with also an element of creativity throughout the programme. And that's what's really important, because fashion is a creative industry. And I suppose it's a good point for me to give you a bit of my background. I come from the fashion industry. I have over 20 years experience through design, through fashion retail management. I've even had my own brand, which was a fashion brand on the high street globally as well. And even today, I practice my own business as well, which is a sustainable and circular business. So it's very important that students understand there are, some of the actual lecturers on the programme as well come from industry, which I think is a really key part of the University of Lincoln as well. So in the in the programme, I should say, we look at circular economy, which is key, and it's all about sustainability, circular design solutions, look at fibres, manufacturing processes, ethical and social issues. We also look at fashion communication, digital marketing within that as well, critical path management, which is all about managing the operational processes. So what is the brand going to make, the choice of country of make, and the business setup, especially so B2B, B2C or D2C. We analyse all of these processes. Even if a student wants to become a buyer or a marketeer, it's really important from that element. I think a core thing as well is that students do come from a very various backgrounds of the industry. It's not just fashion that the students have come from. We've had students in the past come from criminology, sociology, management roles as well, management undergrad, should I say. So it's very different in that way. So we will give students all the background knowledge to entering into fashion. To further enhance the student experience, we look at study field trips as well. So attending exhibitions, catwalks, analysing London Fashion Week, virtual visits to factories as well overseas to truly understand how fashion is produced as well. And that's the key thing. So the fashion industry really is unique from other fields of manufacturing and business, in that is largely ruled by the same intention at its endpoint, which is change. So the MSc Fashion Management Programme prepares students to enter this highly exciting and ever-changing industry.
Wonderful, Amanda. Thank you. And you've hit on some really interesting points there, because you've mentioned, for example, the practitioner background that you have, which I will be coming back to in due course as well, because that is something really unique to our department. Not only do we have traditional academics who are genuine experts within their fields, but we also have practitioners who are genuinely industry experts within their fields as well. So we'll be picking that up again in due course. But thank you for that, as well as an interesting point you highlighted, a fast fashion, which links into our sustainability agenda as well. So thank you for that introduction. Wonderful. So moving on, and it's a good evening to Martin Knight, who is our program leader for MSc International Hospitality Management. Martin, now I know that this is one of our most popular postgraduate degrees in our portfolio, and we've got some fantastic students, not only from the UK, but far field as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the program, Martin.
Well, hello, everyone. Yes, program leader, here I am, Martin Knight, and I have an interest in anything international, and we have a superb range of international options as part of our International Hospitality Management program. My background basically is really in crisis and going back a few centuries in the impacts of tourism and the impacts, if you like, of general sort of movement of people around developing areas. But more recently, in the field of hospitality management, we've become involved, if you like, with food hygiene, regulatory frameworks governing the quality of food, for example. And one of the areas that we're particularly keen on at the moment is, of course, crisis and business continuity. And of course, this comes at the most apt time in the sense that we're just coming out of a pandemic, a global lockdown. And what our MSc International Hospitality Management program does is to offer students an opportunity to develop not only the skills needed to run a business, but also to enable them to prepare for the uncertainties that we are facing today in a global environment with conflict, with hostilities, with compromise to the global supply chain, and so on. And this is proving to be a very popular element of our program within the area of hospitality management. You know, it's a service industry, and of course, one of the things that we need to encourage our students to think about is not only to be able to attract the business in the first place, but then to keep the business and to enable repeat business. So again, rather like in other programs in the business school, we draw on a number of disciplines, particularly from the areas of management, public relations, advertising, marketing, and so on. And one of the things that we are particularly keen on our program is the fact that we have a huge number of international students. In fact, we have students from all corners of the world, which makes it a very, very truly international program. And students are learning from each other. And I too am learning from students, as are my colleagues in this particular context. And because we have students coming from parts of Asia and parts of Africa, we're very, very keen to promote also as part of our program, our ongoing agenda on inclusion, equality and diversity. And to this extent, given the background of many of our students, we're looking really to promote the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, some 17 of them. And in particular, on certain of our modules, we're working in the areas of gender equality, goal number 10, reduced inequality, and also how to develop partnerships and a decent work and economic growth, particularly in the peripheral and global south. So this is proving fairly popular with students. It's interesting also on our program in that because we have students from so many backgrounds, we are able to sort of compare and contrast practices, good and poor, across various boundaries. And I think this is interesting. And another thing that's particularly interesting also on the International Hospitality Management Program is the fact that, again, students are coming with a variety of backgrounds. Rather like Amanda mentioned, we also have students coming from criminology, from environmental science, from public administration, as well as the more traditional areas of business studies, marketing and advertising. One of the things that students have found useful and helpful is the diverse nature of the materials that we use on the program, enabling very effective working both in country and across borders. And I think this is one of the things that makes the program particularly international. I suppose that the thing that students like, of course, they like coming to England. Lincoln is a great place in which to study. It is a great laboratory, if you like, for understanding hospitality management and understanding hospitality generally. It's fairly international in itself. And also it enables students to meet their future contemporaries and future managers and future collaborators. And I think to this extent, what also makes the hospitality management program interesting, and I think we can recognize this also by the students that we get, is that it is a very, very service orientated operation. It is very much about flexibility. Students are very flexible. The program is flexible. It's about allowing students to develop and to find the areas of interest. And to that extent, there are a number of modules that students will follow either by way of elective or as by way of core module. I think ultimately, what I would say is, in terms of hospitality, one of the things that students often ask is, well, why should I study hospitality? And also, why should I come to Lincoln? I would suggest, first of all, coming to Lincoln is the start of it all, because Lincoln is a great place to be. But in terms of hospitality and hospitality management generally, I think we need to bear in mind that this is a limitless industry. You know, the hospitality industry is growing rapidly. It's responding to market shifts. With modern advances, there's plenty of scope for careers in this area. It's a discipline also that enables students to develop their transferable skills: teamwork, communication, time management, problem solving, leadership skills, crisis management. Hospitality provides also opportunities for travel, and not only traveling on the job, but also travel from the point of view of expanding new horizons and understanding the benefits of international travel. And particularly, what I would find and do find amazing, not only as a practitioner at the university, but generally, is that no day is the same. In the hospitality sector, you know, no day is the same. Whatever industry you work in, within the hospitality area, there will be typically very few dull days. And I think I can say that categorically from what I've heard from students, from my own experiences. And I think most importantly, of course, you know, today in 2023, to be part of an exciting and developing industry, because this industry, the hospitality industry, is developing rapidly and it's expanding and it has problems, and it needs, in these uncertain times, it needs young people with good management skills to help resolve those problems and to enable business continuity to prevail.
Wonderful, Martin. You sold it to me. I can tell you that right now. It's absolutely fantastic. And having been in those modules, I know what a fantastic experience it is. You mentioned crisis, for example. It was so brilliant to do that particular element with you. And I know there's some fantastic study visits that you go on as well. So I will come back to those so we can talk in detail about that. I just want to interrupt our introductions at the moment, and we will come to Professor Heather Hughes in a few moments, but we have a question, and I want to pose this straight away, if I can, to the panel here. So if I've understood correctly, I don't need to have done a business degree before to study these programs. I won't be at a disadvantage. Now, that is a brilliant question, because at the very start of today's webinar, the one point I made was that we have degrees which cater not only to students that have a specialist background that they wish to continue in, but also students that may be intending to convert, as we have previously mentioned, i.e. students that have come from various backgrounds, like Amanda and Martin have highlighted already today, from criminology, from the arts, for example. And to put it quite simply, we are most certainly more than happy to take students that have not done a business degree previously, but have an interest in going into hospitality, fashion, cultural heritage management, international tourism management, even events management, for example. So to answer your question simply, no, you do not need a business background, as long as you are able to essentially demonstrate to us that you have an interest in progressing into a particular area. We will be more than happy to look at your application. And I know many of my program leaders in the room today have students on their programs presently that have come from such diverse and interesting backgrounds and have actually performed exceptionally well within their programs when they've joined as well. I'm not sure if any one of my program leaders wants to contribute any further to that, if they want to add anything. No, wonderful. But thank you for that question. And if there's any other questions we can answer, we look forward to answering them during the course of this evening. Last but not least, I want to bring in Professor Heather Hughes into our conversation today, who is the program leader for the MA Cultural Heritage Management. And having spent yesterday evening at a social event with Heather's students, I'm excited to know about her degree program in even more details, and for you to know about it as well, because it is one of our most unique and interesting programs that we offer. So over to you, Heather.
Thanks so much, Farhan, and good evening, everyone. Farhan, introduced me as Professor of Cultural Heritage Studies. I have a wide background, both in academic terms, and I've published a lot and written a lot, but also in practitioner terms. I've led big creative projects, cultural heritage projects that have been awarded large funding grants, and I currently serve in various capacities to support the heritage sector in our region outside of my normal day job. So, like my colleagues, I think these qualities are reflected in our MA Cultural Heritage Management. We love you to read and to grapple with concepts and to play around with concepts and to try to push the boundaries of concepts, but we also really try our hardest to provide opportunities to apply what we learn in the classroom. So the MA Cultural Heritage Management degree, students spend a lot of time in cultural heritage sites and doing cultural heritage type things in and around Lincoln, because to come back to a point that Martin said, Lincoln's a great place to come to, but for my degree, it's the most brilliant cultural heritage laboratory. We have a cathedral, we have a castle, we have several other heritage attractions, both old and new. And one of the newest is the International Bomber Command Center, and the university, not just my degree or not just our department, but the university is a partner in delivering that really huge project in Lincoln. So, and it's an international center. So what are the students like? Who comes on our MA Cultural Heritage Management? We have an amazing mix of domestic, as we call them, home students from the UK, and international students. So this is one of those degrees where there is a good mix of students. We do have international students, and from sort of east and west. We have students coming from the United States onto this degree, and we have a partnership with a really strong university in Hong Kong called the Lingnan University, and students from Lingnan join us during the course of this award for part of their studies. And they are wonderful, as we have discovered over the course of the past year. And as Farhan was referring to last night, we had an event for all the students. They all get on famously together. They were all going somewhere to party after our formal event yesterday. And they seemed a very happy and satisfied bunch, as we try to make our students every single year. So what kinds of backgrounds do the students have? A lot of the students who come onto this award have a creative background. They've worked in the creative arts, they've worked in performance, they've worked in, they are new graduates from history, tourism, and similar subjects. And they're looking for that M word, management. They're looking for a degree in cultural heritage, which also offers them the potential to lead this in the sector. You know, that's what the word cultural heritage management, that's what those words mean. We want you to lead. We're trying to train you and encourage you to become leaders in the field. You know, we really have that as something we take quite seriously. And so in the course that we teach, we do go through some of the things that keep cultural heritage directors and executives awake at night. You know, the big issues of the day. Where does funding come from? How do we deal with climate change? How do we do inclusivity and diversity? How do we react if somebody wants all their stuff back because they say we've looted it? These are the sorts of issues that we deal with very seriously. They are the issues of the moment in our sector. We also look at the sustainable development goals and how the cultural heritage sector can assist in meeting those. There are lots of ways in which we think the cultural heritage sector can play a part. So those are the sorts of things we deal with in the course. We do, as I said, have strong links into our sector in the region. We are just at the moment signing, for example, apart from our partnership with the International Bomber Command Center, we are currently this week signing a memorandum of understanding with the Sir Joseph Banks Centre Museum. That again has an international profile. Its patron is David Attenborough. And so, you know, the students have a lot of really exciting opportunities to explore issues in the sector as part of their award with us. What do students go on doing when they leave us? Well, we do take employability quite seriously. We have connections with 1 or 2 cultural heritage trusts that provide fantastic advice to students, because a lot of students think the kinds of main jobs that they can go into, certainly if they're going to work in the UK, are in organisations like the National Trust and English Heritage. And certainly some of our students have gone into those areas of work. But there's so much more to cultural heritage than those big cultural heritage organisations. And you will get a lot of advice if you do this program about the range of heritage jobs there are. For example, at the moment in this country and in many countries around the world, heritage is a tool, a really important tool for all sorts of urban regeneration schemes. Urban regeneration might not sound a lot like heritage, but they're always looking for cultural heritage specialists to work on projects of that nature. So there are a range of jobs inside and outside cultural heritage organizations that our students go on to when they complete their awards. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Heather. No, it's absolutely brilliant to hear about your program. Like I say, I met with your students last night, an absolute pleasure and honor to do so. A couple of things which have really struck me about your pitch about your degree programs was the fantastic links we have on a local, national, and even international level, whether they be with local industry partners such as the International Bomber Command Center, for example, whether they be with international partnerships such as the Lingnan. It's wonderful the scope that we have in terms of the reach that we have as well with our local and international partners. And that's something that applies across to a range of our programs that may not have been covered in detail tonight. Now, just before I move on to some questions, I want to talk about Lincoln, because all of my colleagues today have mentioned Lincoln and have mentioned how wonderful Lincoln is as a location, not only for your studies, but an area to enhance your career, because we do have some exceptional links with our local partners, national partners, and in international for that matter. But by being in Lincoln, you are in effectively a beautiful campus, which was built circa 25 years ago and has the unique setting of being a city centre campus. So you are in walking distance of any amenity that you need. We have fantastic on-campus accommodation, or if you're willing to venture no more than 5-10 minutes off campus, a range of accommodation providers which will give you what you are looking for in terms of size and scope, but also your budget requirements as well. And one thing that I want to highlight is that if you do get the opportunity to come to visit our campus, please do avail that. And that's why the open day on the 14th of June is so important, because when you experience the campus, it really is the final block that makes the entire educational experience so worthwhile. For those who are international and unable to join us, please look at our website and look at YouTube, in particular the YouTube channel for the business school. We have some fantastic tours of our campus that you can watch on that. So please do avail yourself of those. Now, I understand we have some more questions, which I want to come to, and I'm going to ask particularly what some of my colleagues to chip in terms of the answers here. So what would you say are the biggest challenges facing the industry your students go into? And in particular, Martin, I'm going to direct this at you, because one question I was going to raise was, how has the hospitality industry bounced back after COVID? You alluded to it earlier. You mentioned its resiliency. You mentioned its responsiveness, dealing with crisis. But I wanted to link that point I was going to make with the question we've got below.
Yes, and it's a good question. You say, Farhan, that the hospitality industry has bounced back. It is doing a very good job at bouncing back. But as with every industry, there are winners and losers. And a lot of lessons have been learnt throughout pandemic and throughout the global lockdowns and so on. And one of the things that was learnt was that, you know, businesses need to have planning. They need to have structure. They need to have a way forward. And one of the things that came out of, particularly if we look at what the British Chamber of Commerce have had to say, and if we look at what hospitality sector says generally, very few of the organizations have had business continuity planning as part of their sort of process. And when you think about it, it's really quite ludicrous that you can run a business without some form of contingency planning. And what the lesson has been learned is that no matter how small, whether you are a family-run business or whether you are a large business, you need continuity planning, contingency planning, in order to be able to sort of get through the turbulence that follows. And we don't know how long that's going to be, do we? Whether it's going to be a quick 6 months or nearly 3 years. So yes, that has been a big challenge really for the industry. And I think most hospitality sectors, whether we're looking at visitor attractions, hotels, restaurants, and, you know, we take a very wide interpretation of hospitality on the program. You know, it includes prisons, it includes care homes, for example. It includes meetings, incentives, conferences and events management, for example, not to mention in-flight catering and all the usual sort of business. So the coming out of the pandemic has been a challenge. And another challenge, of course, really is the lingering uncertainty. If I were asked what is the essential challenge facing the hospitality industry today, it is the short to mid-term uncertainty because of what's going on globally at the moment. So with regional conflict, as I say, with compromise to the supply chain, this is going to have an impact, cost of living crisis and everything. And now is the time that businesses, particularly, well, businesses generally, but particularly in the service sector, need to get their acts together and have a very strong and robust business continuity protocol.
Absolutely. And that's what we effectively do with our students. We are preparing the practitioners, the managers of the future who will address those concerns. Brilliant. Thank you. Now, before we move on from this question, I also wanted to defer to Amanda Goss as well, because I know the fashion industry has seen great change. You know, we've seen a boom of fast fashion, online purchasing and so forth, you know, the degradation of the traditional high street, Amanda. So tell us a little bit more about that. How is fashion coping with that at the moment and the operation?
I suppose, I can say the biggest thing on the fashion at the moment is sustainability. Every conference I go to, I went to one last week with the Royal Society. It was all about sustainability, and I think that is the biggest thing, to be honest. And that's what we need to prepare our students, and we do, you know, so they fully understand how to create a sustainable business. You know, the fashion industry is one of the world's most polluting industries in the world. You know, and we need to guide our students so they can have an impact. And when they're coming into fashion management, for example, you know, a lot of our students have gone into various areas, and because we have this whole module which is about circular economy, you know, it's one that actually brings students to us. You know, not many universities are doing this. They say sustainability, it's all about this whole circular model, so that You know, and this is what fashion's talking about at the moment, you know, bringing in something that does have an end use, which it hasn't done. Like you said, fast fashion, it's just throwing away, you know, and it's going to happen, but it's going to take a long time. And I think it's preparing for that. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges faced with fashion, definitely.
Thank you, Amanda. That's brilliant. Wonderful. Right, moving on to our next question, which I understand is the last one before we start to highlight a couple of points that I want to raise. So I really like how mixed the student base is. Are there regular mixers for students to get to know each other regardless of program? Well, that's a really good question, because one thing I'm really proud of as head of department is the fact that we have such a diverse range of students. We've got marketeers, advertisers, fashion students, cultural heritage, hospitality, tourism, events. We've got sports business management as well. And one thing that is so pleasing to see is they genuinely see themselves as one cohesive department. Despite the fact that they're all doing unique programs, they come together and they very much enjoy each other's company, first and foremost socially, but also they come together as academic cognate groups as well, and are able to enjoy learning from each other. I recently went to an event that Amanda's students were holding, a fashion exhibition, and it was so interesting to see the tourism students there, the event students there. We even had some international sports business students there as well. So to answer your question in simple terms, once again, if I may, is we are really proud of how our students mix together. And one thing we openly try to do is when we organize a social event for one group of students, we put the invite out to everyone. And that's important. Heather, I know you wanted to say something on this, so I'm going to defer to you.
Can I also just add that in the business school, and this is unique to the business school, we do have a global student experience dedicated team, and they organize a program of events for all students, not just global students. Well, global students are all students, you know, whether they are from the UK or further afield. They organize regular social events every week through the term time and through the holidays. They run events for anybody who's around and who wants to attend. So, you know, that is something that the business school offers that no other part of the university offers, is the global student experience whole program of events.
Absolutely. They do things over Christmas. They've just recently come back from a trip from Ireland, I understand, and they do so many domestic trips to London, to theme parks, things like that. Just a fantastic opportunity to get together and enjoy each other's company. So that's brilliant. One thing I also wanted to say was that our program leaders across our degree programs are exceptionally active in ensuring that we create that feel of a community as well. And one thing we do is we're always organizing events, whether they be social or academically orientated, to make sure that we get the opportunity to liaise with each other in formal and informal settings as well. Brilliant. So I'm so pleased we're getting these questions, and I'm so pleased that we're able to link in points that we wanted to mention as well. One particular area that I wanted to pick up on, and we've kind of already alluded to this slightly at the start of today's session, was the fantastic mixture of traditional academics and practitioner academics that we have within not only the business school, but within our department in particular, because we are very blessed within our department where we have a range of colleagues that contribute to our degree programs. And what that does is it creates a series of benefits for our students, because all of our program leaders this evening have mentioned the fact that they have study visits embedded within their programs. They have industry experience embedded within their programs as well, where they take their students to fashion events, as Amanda alluded to. Heather's recently come back from a number of study visits. If I'm not wrong, Heather, you came back from the Holocaust Center in Newark recently, where you're able to take
We've been all over the place, to Derby, around various sort of hidden away places in Lincolnshire, all over. Yeah,
fantastic. And that's brilliant, because that's one thing I wanted our students to be aware of, that you will get the best of both worlds here in our degree programs. But I think, and no disrespect to any of the visits that our colleagues do, but I'm going to come to Martin here, because I know Martin organizes, I'm going to use the term the most glamorous, but probably in in a varied sense, organizes probably our most long haul and glamorous visit. So Martin, tell us about that, because I don't want to steal your glory.
Well, I don't know about glamorous, but
indeed. Having been on it, I can confirm that.
no, I mean, I've always been in favor of study visits, and fortunately the business school has been very supportive of promoting business study visits rather for students. In recent years we have taken students to to Cuba, to Sri Lanka, to Mexico, to Prague. Heather and I were in Venice a couple of times. But I suppose the visit that we've offered for the longest period on a regular basis has been to Sri Lanka. And we started going to Sri Lanka in 2014, and it's proven to be one of the most popular visits that we offer. It's very difficult with study visits because we have to bear in mind that there has to be an educational rationale for the visit, as well as an academic rationale, but also we want the students to enjoy it. So we have to have the nice balance between work and pleasure. And so what we've done, for example, in Sri Lanka, and again, this is an example of a program that is open to all students on all programs, and we have had students, I should say Vietnam. We took a group of students to Vietnam also a couple of years ago, and we had students from fashion on that as well. But the idea is that the visit will have a particular theme, and the theme will be specific to one particular group, but it'll be generic to the other groups. So, for example, management, social entrepreneurship is something that permeates through the Sri Lanka visit. So we do quite a lot of work in terms of volunteering and in terms of social enterprise projects, as well as having liaison with government officials and various of the NGOs. So there is, if you like, in Sri Lanka, there's a soft dimension, if you like, as opposed to a more cut and thrust business dimension, because it's interesting for international business students in terms of what's going on in that part of the world. And it's also interesting from the point of view of the politics of the region. So we get students from political science who are also interested in joining the visit. So that's a popular visit, and it's a visit that we have run for the last, since 2014. And Farhan, I recall you were on the first visit with me, weren't you?
I was indeed, Martin, and it stayed within my memory as a highly enjoyable trip. In fact, I'm trying to get myself back on it this year or next year if we can, all being well. Brilliant.
And just to say that, of course, this year, I mean, it comes in waves. Sometimes you have a lot of interest from all students. Some years there's very little interest. But I think this year the interest was lower than usual. So in fact, we're not doing Sri Lanka this year, but we're doing a trip to Malta in a couple of weeks' time with our international tourism management students in particular. But that also has been made available to other students too. And this will be a very good opportunity also for hospitality students, because we have some very good links with hospitality providers in Malta to run short 1-day, 2-day, 3-day workshops as part of the program.
Wonderful. Brilliant. I look forward to hearing from that visit indeed. Colleagues, I just want to say thank you so much. Now, before I conclude today's session, the last thing I want to say is here at Lincoln, the one thing we definitely pride ourselves on is obviously the incredible programs that we offer, and you've had a small window of insight into those programs in particular. We've got many other programs which we haven't profiled in detail tonight, but you can find out about on the website. But one thing that runs across all of our postgraduate programs, in addition to the support mechanisms you have from the central business school services, is the pastoral care element. Now, we are acutely mindful of the fact that traveling internationally, for example, to study at a university and at a culture that you're unfamiliar with can be challenging. Even for what we would describe, as Heather said earlier, home students, it can be a different environment studying at the postgraduate environment. One thing I want to reassure anyone watching or students watching on playback is you will get the support mechanisms which are second to none. All of the program leaders actively know their students individually. We know about the issues you may be experiencing. We know about your learning requirements as well, and we work with you to overcome them. Where those problems may become significant and we need to bring in professional support, we have the University of Lincoln Student Wellbeing Centre, we have student support centres as well, and we will bring in specialist advice and guidance when we need to do so. But I always like to finish off on that, because I think that is the one thing we take great pride in here at Lincoln, and it is a red thread that goes through all of our programs in the department, I should say. On that note, I would like to say thank you to Amanda, Heather and Martin for your fantastic insights into your program. It's wonderful just to get a little window of insights into your personal interests as well. And before I sign off, I would like to remind colleagues watching online that we do have a PG open evening on the 14th of June 2023 between 4 and 9 p.m. Please make every effort to attend that if you can and meet with us personally. If not, I would like to leave you with a picture of all of our modules, all of our degree programs, I should say, which have the contact details for our respective program leaders. And on behalf of my colleagues, those that are here and unfortunately not able to make it, thank you so much for watching this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure to interact with you. And once again, thank you to my colleagues in the room for a wonderful evening. Finally, I wish you all the very best for the future, and we look forward to seeing you in Lincoln, all being well, very soon indeed. Thank you very much.